welcome once again to Senior Focus. I'm your host, Bill Adams. Senior Focus comes to you a couple times each month through Channel 20 and 100 on Armstrong Cable. And we want to thank Greg Roten from Armstrong's community programming. And also, again, we're coming to you from the Davis Center at Fellows Riverside Gardens and Mill Creek Metro Parks. And thank you to Keith Kaiser for the use of those facilities. Today, we're going to be talking with two sisters from the Ursuline Sisters, who have been around for over 100 years here in Youngstown. And to your immediate right, or the far right, I guess, as you look, is Sister Nancy Dawson, and in the middle is Sister Mary McCormick. I want to thank both of you for coming.
Thank you. We're delighted to be here.
Yeah. I like the opportunity.
Well, we're going to start by talking with both of you about the new apartments and senior housing that you have, but the overall renovations, I guess, to the Ursuline Center. Then later on, we'll talk more about all the different programs you have. But where did this idea come from? Either one of you want to take that?
Well, actually, it came from the sisters themselves. We meet on a regular basis with prayer and discernment, and we were looking at our ministries, and we thought, how could we better serve the common good? And our founder, St. Angela Merici, used to say, you go with the flow of the times, you change with the times. And so with our advisory boards and with the discernment of the sisters, we saw that there was a need for some apartments that would be for the average or Social Security amount of money, something that would be reasonable for those that have limited income there. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, they came up with the idea that maybe we should have apartments for the elderly. And that's how it surfaced. And so the sisters then agreed that they would all move to one side of the Motherhouse on Shields Road. And in doing that, they would create space for the common good, for the ministries of the sisters to grow and continue. So that's kind of where the whole idea came from with the sisters, that this was a need of the times. We looked into it, and now we're doing it, and we're really excited about doing that.
Well, so in a way that all the sisters have participated in this, because as you said, they're all moving to one side of the building, or
right, having
to move out of their current space.
Exactly. You know, the Motherhouse has been in Canfield for just about 50 years. We knew that there'd be some work that would have to be done, though we've had good maintenance on the building over the years, and we've been able to keep it up through the generosity of our benefactors. We knew some work would have to be done, so between trying to update some of the plumbing and electrical fixtures of the Motherhouse and wanting to create new space for ministry, all of the sisters have been involved. Not only the 29 sisters who live there, mm-hmm. but the other 21, 22 or so who live outside of the Motherhouse. It's the property that we share in common, and so all of the sisters have been involved in this decision-making and in this planning.
And I was able to go out a little bit earlier today, and one of the things that's really impressive is the way I guess you could describe the way it was, but I guess it's really been brightened up, right, with the revision. You want to describe a little bit? It's hard. I know we're on TV here, but it's hard to describe. But it's just a complete changeover in the lighting.
Well, for one thing, the rooms were so tiny. They had one window, mm-hmm. and then of course the sisters shared bathrooms. They were kind of like a dormitory style to a certain degree. They were in the center of the living quarters, and so they were sharing that. And that was one of the things that we really were trying to do, is to use universal design to come up with a space that would be brighter. For example, the first floor, you could hardly see, it was so dark. And with the new structure, they've opened that all up, and you still get the skylight coming in from upstairs. It's a real open structure, and it lends itself, which we think, to better community living. The sisters will all be in one area of the house where we can gather for prayer, for recreation. And so we see it as a move that's not only going to help other people, but will also strengthen our own community life and care of one another in our own spirituality and our own recreation, our own prayer style. So we're happy about that. But if you would have seen well, you did. I showed you how the space was in the past. And so now it's opened up. There'll be one little living room space. And then you have a barrier-free bathroom, handicap accessible. Anyone could use these bathrooms. It's universal design. Mm-hmm. And then there's a bedroom area. And so looking down the pike, knowing our own culture and our own statistics on aging, if at some point there was some diminishment in numbers because of aging, or maybe fewer coming into this particular type of lifestyle, then we could still use those for the common good and for others, senior citizens who would want to move in who are on limited Social Security. So it's kind of a present project, but it's also very future-oriented.
Sure. And I think you talked to some of the, like the Canfield officials who said that there was definitely a need.
Yeah, we talked to
for
the
the
mayor,
middle-income.
the mayor of Canfield. We have on our committee a lot of representation from a variety of forms of service. For example, we have people that knew a lot about architecture, governing. We had a volunteer architect who helped us with the original plans. We had business people who gave us their input. So they came from a variety, investment people, a variety of experiences, and that's why we've been fortunate. We have 2 lay advisory boards to the Ursuline Sisters of Youngstown. One is on building and grounds, and the other is on finance. So we don't have all those gifts. We see our call to ministry and to serve the common good, and so this expertise is really valued and appreciated.
One of the things we were thinking about is that, people, perhaps when they were planning their retirement, they thought they might have a big pension, but some of them have lost that pension, and now their only source of income is Social Security. And when they get to the point where they want to downsize, we thought there was a need for moderate income housing, it's independent housing, in the Canfield area. People who live in Boardman, Austintown, Canfield, the west side of Youngstown, they still want to live in some of the same area, but they want to live in a smaller space and in a space that might be more economical, as well as being safe and having a variety of services available to them. That's the need that the people in Canfield told us about.
And we talked a little bit about, again, in my own family, I know of relatives who are in their 80s and maybe approaching even 90, and they're still at home. Really, the house is too big, to be honest with you,
Right.
like you're saying. And I think what it is maybe just a fear of the unknown, or just don't want to give up that independence. But I would guess that if you get people to come and tour or take a look at what this will be like, they may change their mind.
Well, we already had an open house recently, and that was the question that kept coming up, well, I'd like to come here. I wouldn't mind living here. And we have no doubt that it will fulfill a need, and I think it will grow. And if that's the case, then we will do what we have to do to create more space.
Because it'll be a modest beginning. We'll have 12 apartments for independent senior living when we start. So, we're not going to have thousands, but it'll start small. All of our ministries have started small, and if they grow, and they mostly have, then we'll see what the next stage would be.
So if people are interested, would it be too soon for people to contact you, or is it okay if they, would it be okay to give out the contact information?
Well, basically, we have a committee that's working on that right now, in fact. And what they're looking at, different aspects of, first of all, a business plan that we're going to have for the apartments. They're going to look at the services that we're going to provide, look at the kind of application we're going to use. So it's a little premature to have people calling. But when the time comes, we will make a public announcement, and we will invite people, first of all, to come out and tour so that they see the space, but also see the services that we can offer. And then once that has become public, then we'll start accepting applications and interviewing. But all of that is in process, and we hope to have that done within the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, that would be my next question, sort of the timeline. I guess you're hoping, within a year or so that the project will be ready?
Well, we started 24 apartments in October of last year, and we're finished. The sisters will begin to move in next week. That's a wonderful thing, and they're all looking forward to that. But if that's the deadline or the timeline that we use for 24, and we're talking 12, we're anticipating next spring.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
That's our hope.
That's our hope, anyhow.
Well, and one of the things, so we didn't mention this yet, but you're adding on that one outdoor sort of a patio area. That's really going to be nice, I can imagine.
It is. It's an addition really for the sisters. It's at the end of the corridor where the sisters are. We have such beautiful grounds in Canfield, and this will be a patio at the end of the hallway that looks out just onto some greenery. So It'll be screened in, but also glassed in, won't be heated, so we'll be able to use it most of the year. And it'll be a place for sisters to gather, for reading, for conversation, for just looking at nature. They may use it as a prayer space. That's not quite finished yet, so everybody's anxious for that to be finished too.
Mm-hmm. So again, depending on how the 12 apartments go, it may lead to more expansion or...
If the need is there, probably.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is just part of course, what you do. There are dozens of things, I guess, but other things that are related to seniors. You have the Silver Sneaker program.
Right. We have probably be 175 somewhere in that ballpark. They come on 2 days a week, and we run 2 classes on each of those days. The seniors will have access to the swimming pool. It's almost Olympic size. We have arthritic classes that are there several days a week. We have aerobics classes at every stage of exercise, from a very mild movement to a very quick one. Mm-hmm. We also have educational classes. Walsh University has an extension course. We're an off-site campus for them. They provide a bachelor's degree in business and a master's degree in terms of their educational programming. So there's a lot going on that a senior would have access to. We have a library. They would have access to our chapel. There may be, we're still working on this, opportunities for having their meals there, depending on what the committee comes up with for the services that we would be offering. And a beautiful environment to walk. We have a labyrinth.
Right.
Modeled after the Chartres in France. And people are coming out all the time. I teach at the university. My students come out all the time. They love it. It's probably one time when you can just center and relax and walk. And it's just a great mindful thinking experience. So they'll have access to that too.
Well, just to let you know, and maybe this could be a good point, I guess I've been assuming, and it's my fault, that people know where you're located, but you're actually on Shields Road.
Shields Road.
What's
the
the address?
Education Center is 4280.
Okay.
But we also have a preschool and a kindergarten there, mm-hmm. and some daycare services that are offered. And that's another plus for intergenerational programming, where the children and the seniors could possibly do some things together, and a wonderful opportunity to volunteer if seniors want to meet a lot of people. So, and the Motherhouse address is 4250 Shields Road.
Mm-hmm.
But
so this would be just, it's just
east of Raccoon Road.
Yeah,
east of Raccoon, right.
And about a mile north of 224.
Mm-hmm. And it's close to the freeway. That's what's so wonderful, and close to the plaza, so people would not have a transportation problem ordinarily, mm-hmm. because you just come right off the freeway there and you're out at our place. So
now, if I recall, in reading through some of the materials you gave me, next year would be the 50th year out there?
Yes.
50th anniversary of the...
We moved into the Motherhouse. The sisters moved into the Motherhouse in December of 1963.
Oh, okay.
Prior to that, we didn't have a single big Motherhouse. We had 3 big houses. One was at the Ursuline High School location, mm-hmm. and that was a big convent on Wick Avenue. We had another house on Rayan Avenue that was right next door to St. Columba Cathedral.
Okay.
And the third house was out on Logan Way. So maybe some people remember those buildings.
That was the mansion.
Is that where the retreat center?
Yes, and prior
It
to
was
that,
not the retreat center. It was next to it, though.
Next to it, okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
They used to call it the mansion. I suppose there was dancing and partying that went on there before the nuns came. And I think there was a little bit of that after the nuns came, too.
Well,
we do have a good time.
Any promises of that at the new location? Well, not
Well,
the new location.
I'll tell you right now, the Silver Sneakers, they have their socials. They have a buffet, and they all bring things. And then we usually have socials outside when the weather's nice. In fact, one's coming up in another week or so. Mm-hmm. And I think it's socialization that's so important. Mm-hmm. That in the aging process, people want, I think they want a couple things. I think they want socialization, but I think they also want more time to reflect on their life. And I think this provides an atmosphere for all of that, including the whole physical development and how to maintain good, healthy habits, walking. Now, we're not examples of this altogether.
Right.
Well, myself either.
But we advocate it. We advocate it, kind of a holistic approach to living,
Well, speaking of things like Silver Sneakers, as again, my understanding of that is through Medicare and your insurance company, that's a free program, or it can be paid through insurance?
Many insurance carriers will cover it. So most of the people who come, it is covered through their insurance. If your own insurance policy does not cover it, we still welcome them. And it would be a charge of $3 per session.
Which
So
is
it's a pretty
Yeah, it's
minimal
pretty
fee.
reasonable.
Minimal, yeah.
And the other thing is we have a ministry fund. And whenever there's somebody that has a need, a different need, that's what that fund is for. For example, we helped to sponsor the Dorothy Day House, where we serve maybe 80 to 100 meals a day with the Humility of Mary Sisters and some wonderful lay people. And so that fund helps to support some of these ministries. Beatitude House, where we have single women of low income with children. So the Ursulines, with that fund, when we sold our property a number of years ago, when we got the money for that property, half of that went into the services for the poor, the ministry fund, and the other half went into the retirement fund for the sisters. So that's what we did with that amount of money. So that ministry fund, even when it comes to the apartments in the future, if there were a need for someone and they could not afford it, that's why we have that fund to help folks that may not economically be able to afford some of the services that are offered.
Yeah, that's very good to know that, people are willing to help.
Right.
And the sisters are willing to help. Again, we're talking with Sister Nancy Dawson and Sister Mary McCormick. They're with the Ursuline Sisters here in Youngstown. And specifically, we've been talking about the Ursuline Center out on Shields Road, which is going to be adapted or is in the process of having 12 senior apartments. But at this point in the show, and Sister, you started to talk about some of the other programs that you work with, Dorothy Day House and things like that. This might be a good time to go through, again, maybe sort of the history of the sisters locally and also all the different programs that you work with.
Well, about 20 years ago, we had a sister working at the hospital, and we found out that more and more we were getting more patients that were infected by the AIDS virus. And so the need was there, and we started very small with the support group, and now it's almost 20 or maybe a little bit more than 20 years, where we serve about 40 or 50 children who are infected or affected by the virus. And we also serve probably about 170 or some adults. We have a meal for them every month, a dinner that's served, volunteers prepare it. We have a cupboard where we supply all of those things that may not be covered by food stamps. And as you know, the medicine is just astronomical. Sometimes those medicine bills are $450 a month. We opened a clinic over where the old Southside Hospital used to be. And then we have a house for the children that they can come to for respite care, for tutoring, to have a meal. These are children who are either infected or affected by the AIDS virus. They use our pool. They have their own programming when the adults come. That's been a wonderful, wonderful ministry, and it's always been associated with the Ursuline Motherhouse and Educational Center.
You had asked about our history. The Ursulines were actually founded nearly 500 years ago. So Ursuline Sisters have been around a long time.
That's hard to believe, half
It
a
is.
millennium.
We don't
We don't look at it, do we? We don't look at it.
No,
I
not at
always
all.
say.
But we've been in Youngstown since 1874.
Okay.
So we've been in Youngstown for over 130 years. And our mission has really been to do what St. Angelo Merici said, to meet the needs of the time. At that time, it was pretty much an immigrant church, and one of the needs was education. And so our sisters for a very long time educated in Catholic schools. And that's kind of what Ursulines were known for. But as the need changed, lots of lay people came into Catholic schools and do a very good job of educating children themselves. And that's when the sisters really began to do other types of ministry where maybe people weren't meeting that need. As Sister Nancy said, AIDS was one of those areas that was brand new. Nobody knew what to do.
Sure.
And so with a small group of sisters, we started a ministry that has grown and continued. That's really been our history. Not only in the last 20 or 30 years, it's really been our history for nearly 500 years.
Another ministry that seemed to evolve over the last few years was the prison ministry. So we have multiple sisters, some of whom have gone to the prison and taught. Sister Marcia Welsh was one of those sisters who's still with us but is in healthcare now. We had a deceased sister, Sister Virginia, who visited the prison and related on one-to-one to some of the prisoners and some on death row. Right now, we have sisters that email and do catechetical work through the mail with prisoners, and that's proven to be a wonderful ministry, and especially for those that are going to be there for their lifetime. It does give them, one right now is writing poetry and hopes to publish it sometime, and some are artists, and so the sisters have an opportunity to learn a lot from the prisoners, and then vice versa too. It's an incredible ministry and a real need.
And I was thinking when you talked about like the Dorothy Day House, there are opportunities then for lay people to interact and volunteer in conjunction with what you're doing. Is that correct?
Wonderful, yeah.
Right.
We've always been known for collaboration with the bishop, collaboration with the diocese and their programs. And we've been, in the last year or so, very consciously trying to connect with some of the values of our own bishop and the diocese at this time, one being the whole new evangelization, another one being vocations as a priority, the use of technology to continue to grow in our knowledge and use of as a ministry. So we are a collaborative group, and we do rely, I can't tell you how much, on volunteers. And now we've been hiring some of our own associates. We have an associate program. These are folks, men and women, who come and pray with us and learn about our founder, St. Angela. So wherever they're at, they're actually taking her spirit with them, which is the Ursuline spirit. So we see it as a continuation of what we're doing. But this past year, we've hired 2 or 3 of those folks. One's working in personnel full-time at our Ursuline Motherhouse and helping to oversee the construction. Others are at the center and are doing some programming. So we rely on volunteers. They're life-giving, and they share our vision and our mission, and I think that's important.
Well, you mentioned technology and the new role that that is taking in the work of the Ursulines, and if you don't mind, I'll share. You've got it's www.theursulines, all one word, theursulines.org, O-R-G, and that would be your